Hi guys, welcome back to another edition of Musings with the Movement Man. Like I said in the previous podcast, doing things slightly differently these days, looking at coaches, managers, people that are influential in sport, as well as maybe business and leadership and things like that, because I want you guys to have an honest opinion, honest views from the people that I'm holding podcasts with about sort of their life and their thoughts and their feelings. And today's a strange one. I'll tell you why, because I've known this guy since he was 12. And when I do the numbers on that, it makes me feel very, very old. And I don't, yeah. So today I've got Aarran Racine with me, and I'll let Aarran sort of, tell you about his background. But, I know so I've known this guy since he was 12. He's probably one of the most honest, hardworking, genuine guys I've ever met. Comes from an unbelievable family. The people you just sort of like, you hope that, your kids, my kids, end up being sort of, anything like. So he's one of the best guys. So Aarran, if you'd like to introduce yourself, mate, what you do, who you are.
What's an introduction to that, Steve?
Oh, mate, honestly, like I say, you know me by now. Everything's the truth.
Yeah.
No,
I saw it at 11, but Steve and I, we met years ago, just through football. His dad scouted me when I was younger for Southampton. Didn't get in the first time, but got in the second time. But ever since then, his brother coached me at Southampton and just been obviously in contact ever since. And especially as of late, since I've moved home and sort of hung up the full-time football boots, saw Steve a lot more. But yeah, my background just nothing too interesting really. Just I got into professional football and academy when I was 15 or 14 full-time. And then I was at Southampton until I was 20. Didn't make any first team appearances, but I was, in around the 18s, the first teams, and just obviously try to break through. Unfortunately, had a few injuries along the way there as well. And then that later led me to be signed up by Forest Green at 20. Played full-time there at Forest Green for 5 years. Had a few loan moves, went up to York City, went to Torquay United, played at Yeovil. Again, all throughout that 5 years, numerous injuries, some quite serious ones. And then after, I can't think what time it was now, roughly, I think I was 26, had my second major knee up, which led me moving back home and then really questioning what I was doing with sort of my life after football. Didn't really want to let go, knew I had to, was sort of in limbo for 2 years, very optimistic, getting back into the game. But, had to make a decision. Went down to Worthing, played there part-time, still there now. So I think I've been there for 3 years, got involved in my coaching. During this time, got involved at Sussex Performance Centre, doing a bit of fitness work with them. And here I am now, just going to apply for a part-time uni course next year to allow me to be a teacher. So touch wood, a couple of years' time, I'll be a Stephen Braybrook.
Mate, you don't want to be one of those, trust me. Even I don't want to be one of those on the best of days. I think one of the things that people don't, these things are quite strange because, people only see what you see now. So, for example, Aarran Racine playing at Worthing United, got back playing really well from all accounts. Unfortunately, the season's been a funny one because push for promotion, probably would have got promotion, but obviously, decisions were made and seasons now ceased. So people just look at what they see Aarran Racine now. But I think one of the things we can talk about really is how did you cope with having a full-time career? Played at Wembley. Was you captain?
Yeah.
So I don't know anybody else who can say they was a captain in professional sport, football, and played at Wembley. That's unheard of. So, so you was doing well. Rave reviews, everything was going well, and then obviously catastrophically over a period of 2 or 3 years, you had a few injuries. How did you cope? Because we're in a world of issues regarding mental health, and sport is a big one. people playing at high levels and then not playing, people getting addictions. There's many famous football players who are in the world of addictions at the moment because they no longer have that association or that high they played. How did you cope? How did you mentally cope?
I'll tell you what, I've had 3 major knee ops, and the first one, I was young. I was 22 years old, so I was very young, still naive, not thinking too far ahead as you do when you're that young. So you just think, right, you'll rehab it, you'll get back playing. And then I had my second one, and that was a bad one. I was going for a bit of a bad patch at the football club at the time, fell out with the manager, and he was basically forcing me out of Forest Green. Hence why a few loan moves. And I'd done my second major knee op on the same leg when I was on loan at Torquay, my first game, about 60 minutes in, whatever it was. That was tough, and that was a real reality check, because then, like I said, when I was young, naive, you think you're going to get through it and come back out the other side stronger. And I did the first time. The second time, for those that don't know, I've done my cruciate ligament, and that's roughly a 9-month setback in football. So the first one was 9 months, done the same thing again on the same knee, along with tearing my MCL. So I was out for roughly 16 to 17 months. And at the time, I still had a year and a half left on my contract. So the finances, I wasn't too worried about that in that sense, because I thought, it doesn't matter, I'll get back fit in the time frame, I can still get paid. I've got to get a job, But the hard reality was, not a lot of people come back from doing the ACL twice on a knee. This is what the surgeons told me, and doctors and physios. They say it's doable, but then you become more suspect, you have these little niggles, etc. And that's when it hit home, and I think I was 24 at the time, 25. And that was tough. That was real tough to take, because like I said, I was getting forced out of the football club at Forest Green. No idea what was going on, if I'm being honest. Yeah, and I do this. I remember hearing the news, and I remember my throat sort of just drying up. I was with my physio. He knew I was just about to pretty burst out in tears. He felt awkward. I felt like shit. I remember sitting in that room, and the surgeon was telling me what was going on and all this stuff. And I come out of there, and that was like I said, a reality check, in the sense that, right, now I've got to really decide what am I going to do? How am I going to go about doing this? And I had every intention in this rehab to just get back fit, focus on getting fit and getting back in the professional game. And fuck me, did I try, and it didn't work out. And it's not a case of settling for Worthing, because when I was injured in my second one, I went to Worthing, done a bit of coaching, just helped out there, just wanted to get my coaching done, etc. But like I said, I was working my nuts off just to try and get back into the game, because that's what I wanted to do. I know I had a bit of comfort in the sense of my contract was still there. I was like, there's no excuses for me not to do it. But I got back fit, and I just think the timings weren't there. Wrong place, wrong time. I went to a couple of clubs. They said I just didn't look fit enough, all this stuff. And then as soon as that, they hit me there, because I wanted to stay local. I've lived away for 10 years. I want to stay local this time. Couldn't get a club, and then it does play in your mind mentally. Like, I think, I don't know, like, at my level that I played, you're never certain where you're going to be. I never knew I was going to be at Forest Green for 5 years. Never knew I'd be at Southampton for 5 years. You're living by, like, each year contract you get, 1 year, 2 years, 1 year, 2 years. So every time you always look over your shoulder at your next move. It's not like you're in the Championship League One and you get all this money. So I'll take a year out of the game, live on this, go up north, try and get that contract. I'm literally living year by year, wondering where I'm going to live, who my teammates are going to be with. And that in itself is uncertain and proper fucks with your head, because some managers don't like to give you a contract straight away. Some of them like to hold out right to the last minute. They might have other targets. They might not have the budget, etc. So you could be running down the last 4 months of your contract, end of the season, not knowing where you're going to be in 5 months' time, not knowing even if you're going to get a club, because I know players, good players, that for some reason just can't manage to get a football club. It's a game full of opinions, So, I don't know, I guess, like, almost kind of prepared for the mental state in that sense. But I'd say with the mental side, the mentality around it, as long as you surround yourself with the right people, it does make it a hell of a lot easier. So I had, my first one had good physios around me. Second one had no physios around me. that was hard. Fortunately, I started working at SPC and got some work done there with them guys. That helped massively. So they knew what they're doing, they knew what they're talking about. They can help you through it. But yeah, for the mental side for me, I suppose I did have some good people around me to get me through it and help me through and get some good advice, etc.
Yeah, that's cool. Another question I want to ask you, and obviously, you've been in what was they are Southampton Football Club are now a Premiership, but when you was there, it was a Premiership club as well. Even though they had their dips and troughs and etc. And if I remember rightly, it was the Clive Woodward era. I think it was around that time as well. So you saw changes come in. I think it was I think you were there when they had the new training ground built.
Yeah.
So it went from that sort of the one, it's like the other side of the road in a way. So you was there when sort of the academy started to be a little bit more upmarket.
Yeah.
And you went through that. What was the worst thing about being around in those academy days? Not Southampton itself, but just those academy days. Looking back retrospectively, what would you say is like the things that just didn't work, or the things that were just wrong, if there was any?
There's two things that spring to mind. They do kind of answer that question, but I'll say one of them was in my time there, and this is, you can't control this too much, but in my time there, I think there was 5 first team managers in my 5 years there, full time, whatever it was. So when I first went there, I was obviously quite young, 15, 16. And the managers do look at that ages. They always do. They always look at especially the 16s, who's coming through. And I think it was at the time, who's the Scottish geezer? George Burley. He was there, obviously didn't know much about me, very young at the time. After that was Nigel Pearson, again, relatively young. Then you had 2 Dutch guys come in, Jan Portvliet and someone else, who absolutely loved me and loved the way I played and everything about me. Couldn't praise me high enough. They put me in I was 16 years old, just left school, put me in all the first team friendlies. I played against West Ham, Celtic, Stoke, and then I get injured, unfortunately, and then there was a bit of a press conference about it, and then they actually come out and said, no, if he didn't get injured, he would have played this year with us, and this was in the Championship. So at this time, I'm thinking, this is brilliant, I'll get over this injury, blah, 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 whatever. And then they get the tic-tac, and then Alan Pardew comes in. Then he comes in, then he doesn't like me, or he's got a question mark on me. Then he writes me off, then he actually releases me, or says I can find a new club, even though I had a year left of my contract. And then I come back the next season when he's still there, playing pre-season, a really good pre-season. And he's like, actually, you're back involved. I want you back on board, blah, blah, this. Then he gets a sack again, or he gets a sack. And then it's Nigel Atkins. And he didn't really buy into me too much. I'll be honest with you, I can tell. You can just tell he's a good guy, but didn't buy into me as a player. So one of the hardest things about in that my sort of upcoming in the club was just having these different opinions all the time. You're not getting settled. You can't work towards one manager or the other. And like I said, like if that Jan Portvliet was there, he says I probably would have played that year, 16 in the Championship. Alan Pardew releases me. Next year he wants me back on board. And then eventually I do get released by Nigel Atkins. And it's just like, that was one of the harder things to sort of get to grips with. So you're like, if that person just stayed in the job for that little bit longer, gave me my 5 appearances, 10 appearances, played under him, who knows where I could have been now. It's just them sort of like question mark, and that's hard. And then there's the second thing, I think, with the academies now, and I was in the transition phase of when they were phasing all this stuff out, and it's a very old school mentality, and I'll hold my hands up as a culprit to this, but you had all these training ground jobs, and from what I understand, before my time, about 5 years before my time, 3 years, the scholars were in at 8:30, wouldn't leave till 5. Doesn't matter if you finish all your jobs, you stay there. It's a full-time gig. You clean the stands, you clean changing rooms, you clean boots, you do everything. You're basically a bitch for the day. You do what the fuck the first thing I want you to do, whatever else want you to do, then you go home. And I was in that transition phase where there was stuff the FA was saying, the PFA was saying, oh, you can't make kids do this anymore, blah, 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 abuse or whatever you want to call it. And I was guilty because I was meant to be cleaning first team players' boots and I didn't. No one pulled me up on it, and the kit man was actually cleaning them. But yeah, I just think like having that in place as a scholar is such good character building, because you do get involved with the first team, regardless. You know, they take the piss out of you, do whatever, but you get involved with them. It's character building. You sort of learn. You don't get too carried away with anything. So you can't be too big time. You can't leave whenever you want. Do this, do that. I mean, towards the end of it, I know that youth team players were leaving at like 1:30, like just after lunch. So they game the day before, whatever. They're feeling a bit tired and recovery and all that shit. I genuinely think that is a proper lost art in the game. In this, as youngsters are coming through, they're getting their asses wiped in everything they do. In the sense that they've got S&C coaches, they've got all the what's the word? All the computer shit, like GPS stuff. They get the coaches that are giving them analysing them every session. Like every training session, you get analysed. Every match you get analysed. It wasn't you. You did do that when I was there. Hold on. Sorry, mate. Yeah, and it's just like, and I just think that is such a lost art, because you see all these big time players, you see all these people that will just go out on the training pitch or the match days at these under 23 games, whatever it is, under 18 games, and they've got that little bit of like swag about them, like they've done something. And they don't earn anything nowadays, and I think that is a proper lost art in the game. And I think it can. Don't get me wrong, you are getting some good players coming through, and I think if they're in the right environment, i.e., around the right people, and the coaches can have a good ethos and philosophy around a club, you know, it can work. But me personally, I would go a bit old school and have that sort of mentality again. I think that's definitely lost in the game.
And that leads to another question, really, is that what do you think? Obviously, there's definitely many answers to this, but you know, what do you think? Because you played, you know, professional, you played high, you know, highest on league you can, and obviously now at Worthing. What do you think the difference is between, you know, that sort of platform between where you are at Worthing, the standard, and then the standard you were when you was Forest Green, you know, playing at Wembley, winning the conference, and then obviously playing back in pro game. That sort of, what would you say a couple of things are that is a major difference? Obviously, money and things like that, full-time training, I get that, but you know, just about, you know, the players themselves.
I think I've got a bit of a weird way I look at it, but I think I always thought from conference, when I was playing conference to League One, I thought a lot of that is physicality of players. I think if you're big, you're strong, you're quick. Obviously, you have to have some sort of technical ability and some sort of ability to do your job. But I think that can be very average. But as long as you're an athlete, I think that can get you up to League One under the right managers and the right team. I think 100% you can make a good living at and just being an athlete. Then top end of League One, Championship, obviously Prem. Then you've got to be fucking smart up here with the ball. Like you can't. And again, you can generally be quite like an average technically player. Obviously, the better technically you are, the better chance. But I think League One up, or top of League One then up, is when you've got a football brain. You've got to be smart with everything you do. You've got to know when to play the pass. You've got to know when to sort of drop as a defender, when to hold the line, all that stuff. And that's when it becomes really important. And then going from Worthing to conference, I would say probably physicality, and more so for fitness, really. I remember when I was in my second year at Worthing. So I've been in that sort of level for a good amount of time. Know what it's about. I went to watch Woking. I went up to Woking with a friend of mine to watch Woking, and I want to say Aldershot, I can't remember now. And there were two part-time teams, but the intensity and the fitness and the speed of the game, and I didn't notice it when I was playing it, but obviously just being out of that level and then watching it back out, the intensity of the fitness and the physicality again is a big difference from the Ishmael League up to the conference. So you imagine conference to League One, physicality will get you up to League One, and then you look at the Ishmael, physicality gets you up to the conference. So, and especially in this day and age now, I think physicality and your fitness and your conditioning is so important now. You can get away with it when you were obviously 15, 20 years ago, the culture of the game, but now it's just playing a massive part.
So here's again, these answers just come to questions. Now, you know, obviously we have mutual friends, SPC, Nathan, the guys down there, and they do an exceptional job. And obviously, you work with Nath at times, and obviously, I speak to Nath at times. And one of the things that we always say when me and Nathan having chats about things is, why? Maybe I'm wrong, but it just appears this way. If one of the factors of progression, both as a team or as individuals, is to be as physical, as dominant, as maybe at times as naughty as you can be within the laws of the game, knowing that, as you said, with your experience, and don't get, guys, you listen to this, I think you're only 2 years, are you 2 or 3 years difference, which under 15s when the Theo Walcotts was 18s, 19s, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So you saw the Theo Walcotts, you train with Theos, you train with Gareth Bale, Dave McGoldrick, Leon Best, Alma Lallana, you name them. So you was around them, so you saw how they developed. And on a side note, they had, they didn't get everything handed to on the plate. Them guys, they had to work extremely hard over and over again.
Yeah, and that's what 10 or 10, 15 years ago, whatever it is. And that's that culture change.
Yeah.
They would have been cleaning changing rooms and shit and doing all that bollocks that you have to do.
Absolutely, and I was privileged to go down a few times because my brother was with you guys, and I saw how they got treated, and it was it was old school. It was do it again and again and again and again and again, and we'll stay here until 8:00 at night until you get it right, or you do what you have to do, and if you don't, then we come back to visit again, and you can continue doing that. But if one of the things is physicality, and so that the ability to have power and pace and aggression and things like that, why is it that there's so many teams or players in non-league who just stop doing it, just refuse to take care of themselves, refuse to try to strive for that that extra physical development that takes them to a next level, or even teams, because it seems like, you guys are working, like you did really well this year. And from an outside perspective, you was fit than everybody else. You was potentially more physical than anybody else. You had an identity that people didn't have, and you kept that game plan, and it got you success. What if that is that way? Why aren't other teams just saying, let's make ourselves physical, let's make ourselves strong, let's stick to a game plan and continue doing it?
Well, I think go back to the individual. I think it's simple for the individual. If they don't want it, they won't get it. If they want to get better, be the best striker in the league, whatever it is, then they will go and apply themselves in the gym or whatever they've got to do to get better. So when you say, like, why don't they do that? They're obviously not hungry enough for it. And then going down the manager's route or the teams, the only thing I can think of, and you know what it's like, it's just a game full of opinions. People have their ways on how they want to do things. People have their ways on how they do their coaching and stuff. But especially at workers' level, even in the conference with part-time teams, you only get 4 hours a week training. So a lot of managers, especially if they're football-minded, will use as much of the football time they can running about as their fitness. But then they'll want to get their tactics in. They want to get their team morale up with their games. Whatever. They want to just do football because it's 4 hours a week. And if you're full time, then it's a bit different and easier to start working on that strength and conditioning. I think you can do both. I generally think you can do both. It will come as a detrimental effect at part-time level, a detrimental effect to the football side. But I'm a believer in it, in the sense that I do think strength or fitness, the athletes, that will get you a certain sort of place in the team. If you're a team that's fit than everyone else, quicker than everyone else, and that little bit more hungry, which you try and instill into a team, I think that can get you X amount of places in the league straight away. Then you start tinkering your game plan, doing this and doing that, and you get up there. But I think it is a massive part. In my opinion, I would focus quite hotly on that side as well as the football. But again, to answer your question, I think it just goes down to managers' opinions. I know even some coaches at professional level, like even in like Southampton. I went to see into Southampton last year, maybe the year before last, I can't remember. See one of my old coaches, and I was just talking to him about how things are run now in this day and age. And he was like, you wouldn't believe, like even under 14s and 15s and 16s up to the 21s, the S&C coaches have so much say They look at their data and they say, right, oh yeah, you look a little bit fatigued here. He's only going to train for 20 minutes today. And this coach has got a session for the whole team to work on stuff, but he's only have to train for 20 minutes because he's a little bit tired. And they actually they get the final say, or they get quite a big influence on who trains and who doesn't. The S&C coaches. I remember him saying it's just all changed now. So it's just a bit like you don't really get to do what you want as a coach football wise. And I can see it from both sides. As a coach, you love the game, you love football. You don't become a football coach to be a fitness coach, do you? So you want to get all your ideas out and do that. But at the same time, it is part of the game. So
here's a question I'll ask you. I'm going to ask every single person that's on the podcast this. I asked Dave Hall this morning. It was obviously Dave, so I knew what Dave's answer was going to be. So you've got two choices. You can win 1-0 with an 89th minute goal from a corner and get booed off the park, or you can lose 4-0 and get praised for your tiki-taka.
Win.
Nice.
Win all day. When we was at Forest Green, we had that big John Parkin, part of Stoke. That sort of mentality was drilled into him. And we had a few young players, and we had one manager who loved playing football. He got a tic-tac. This new guy come in who was actually from Stoke's youth setup. So he came in, he had the Stoke mentality at the time, the Pulis. I don't like to say it, but he is renowned for it. A bit more direct, a bit more physicality about him. I remember some of the players at Forest Green were moaning like, oh, fucking hell, all we do is boot it along, it's shit. And we were fucking winning games at the time. I think we're halfway through the league, I think we're undefeated for like 13 games. But all footballers moaning, have a little moan up. But anyway, and then John said, well, what would you rather do? Play as pretty football and finish second, third, or fourth and score the most goals in the league? Or would you like to win all your games, play a bit shitty football, only win your 1-0s, but win the league? And then everyone was like, well, you get some of them that are being stubborn and pricks and, I'd like to play football. But 9 times out of 10, you're there to win, aren't you? You're there to win. So you're always gonna pick that. Well, I will. What do you want?
You'd be amazed when people say, they'd rather be clapped off the park and unapplauded and finish mid-table. Again, they say it's a matter of opinions, but like I said in the last podcast, for me, the aspects of wanting to win is far bigger than just winning a game of football. It's like, if you have the attitude of you want to try to achieve something outside, you want to try to succeed, then, there are going to be times when you are going to lose in life, like you did in a way, if you want to put it down to sort of winning and losing. You had a career in football, you didn't have a career in football, you lost a career in football. There's two choices you make. There's the choice where you like losing and, and you don't bother doing anything else, or you go, actually, I lost that battle, but let's go and win the war, and you continue going. And I think football, the football, when people say, football's like, it's war, it's war. And I think again, that type of mentality or terminology is used flippantly, because actually what it really means is that you're prepared to battle when things are not going the way you want. And you'll continue battling when things don't go away. And sometimes you come out on top and sometimes you don't, but you continue battling. And then when you don't succeed, you feel upset and guilty and disappointed to make you want to achieve even more after. And that's just a matter of life. It's not just football. So for me, when someone says, I'll win the game, it's like, well, that means that potentially you have the attitude where you want to win things. And winning is not accepting defeat. And if you do get defeated, you want to then go and win again. And it means something to you when you don't win it. You feel it gets emotional. That's what life's about, So I'm with you. I'd rather win 1-0 or an 89th minute own goal and get booed off. And trust me, I've been in teams, mate, and I've not so much playing, but in some football coaching capacity, well, that happens all the time.
The thing is as well, like, it's just the sort of tiki-taka, the nice football, it's just a fad. Like everyone, a lot of managers want to do it because they think it's the in thing, they think it's the cool thing. But there's two things you've got to do, right? If that's your style of play, you've got to make sure it's your style of play, and you've got to learn about it. You've got to learn how to do it, all right? It's not a case of just passing for passing's sake. There's generally fucking so much work you've got to do to have a good team that can pass the ball. And if that's your style, then you stick at it. That's what you want. Or you go the other way. You want to be a bit more direct, or you want to get wide and get crosses in the box. There's no right or wrong, but there's also another thing which I've seen it happen loads of times. It's a load of shit. is managers will either go and inherit a squad, right, who will be big brutes, and they'll just want to sort of defend for their lives, and they want to stick balls in the box and head it and kick it and just try and score goals that way, and they'll try and convert them into a passing team. Won't work. Or vice versa, you might have a young squad who haven't got the mentality and the minerals to go and boot it long and defend for their lives and do this, and they'll try and make them do that when really they're pretty better technically at that age maybe, and you go and try and play. So like, as a manager, you've got to be adaptable, and first off, you've got to realise what squad or what players you've got to your disposal, and then effectively work your tactics around them. If your chairman's got a load of dough, then you can be like, right, I'm gonna do it my way, bin you off, get you in, boom, boom, boom. But like, if like I said, like I do feel it's just like the in thing to do. Everyone wants to pass and pass for passing's sake. I see like you see so many goal kicks, it's fucking embarrassing. They're passing and they don't know what they're doing with the ball at the back, and they panic and nothing comes of it. But they're doing it because it's the in thing or because everyone wants to do it. You just got to work with what you got. If you've got a keeper who's shit with his feet, fucking don't play. Just get it forward. Remember Mourinho said years ago, didn't he, when he had when he was in Chelsea 2004, and then I think someone said about in a press conference to him something about playing football or something, and he said, "Why when I've got Peter Cech in goal, who's got the biggest kick in the league, and I've got Didier Drogba up front, who's the strongest striker in the league, why would I not get the ball to him as quickly as I can?" And he's just a tactician. He just knows what he's got and he works with it. He makes it work. Like I said, other managers, they don't think quite get to grips with that. They've got their sort of stubborn style of play, and they'll try and make that work around the players they may or may not have to fit it.
Yeah, I think, before I ask the next question, I think one of the things that I always sort of butt heads around in coaching, and I'm on the periphery. I'm not even involved with it in a capacity where I'm there, every day. I'm just on the periphery of wherever I am and where I'm working. And I'm working with Worthing College, and he came down there. But and people might listen to this and go, what are you talking about, Steve? Because you've got one. But I think one of the biggest issues with coaching or in any sport, and this is all sport, but I don't know all sport. I just know a little bit about football. Is respect of there's too many people with egos who believe they have the whole, they have the Bible of being the greatest.
Yeah.
And they will not deviate from that. And I think that is the one thing which I find it fascinating, but I find it quite amusing.
Yeah.
You see that, people will stick to, that holy grail of Bible because their ego won't let them go and, go long if needed.
Yeah.
They'd rather lose but have their ego intact.
Yeah.
I find that I find that strange. One of the things I want to ask you, because you're, not only now you're playing, but you're coaching Worthing 18s. So you've got the 18s down there. You've been involved with the 18s. I think you're involved with the 16s. You've got some young guys in the first team at Worthing. We're happy to say at the college that, a couple of those are our family, our boys, and also with Worthing College, with the S&C, you got hundreds of boys that have come through that are still playing. And when people listen to this, I hope they listen and appreciate where you've come from, rather than just, like I said before, rather than seeing Aarran Racine, the person they see now in the gym, going through some S&C sessions or putting a coaching session, where you've come from, because, you come from places and you've been around people. I said before, you've been around professional football clubs, you've been around the Theo Walcotts, the Gareth Bales, the Andy Sermons, the Adam Lallanas, the whole superstars that on people's, Oxlade-Chamberlain, and there's more, that people idolise now. You've been around those, you've seen their development as much as anybody else has. What advice would you give all those kids that come through Worthing College that maybe don't go to S&C sessions as much as they should do? All the guys at Worthing 16s, 18s that you deal with, some of those young guys that are playing first in football that people are looking at like they did when you was that age. What advice would you give them if they come up to the Aarran, give me some advice. What would you do in this situation?
Firstly, I'd like to get them to ask themselves the question if they generally want it enough, and if they want it enough, you'd like to think that should be enough in the sense that because for me, it's just all about whether you want it enough. Like when I was younger at Southampton, took it for granted 100% in that environment. Did I want it enough? No, because I weren't out on the training pitch every day trying to improve what I'm trying to do. I thought, yeah, I train 5 days a week, 4 days a week. I go to gym 3 a week. Yeah, that'll do me. But in hindsight now, fucking no way near did I work hard enough to even warrant what. I mean, I was genuinely surprised when I got a year extension on my contract, because in looking back now, when I was 19, I got a year extension because, like I said, I didn't put it in, and then you get to that age, and I wasn't a massive drinker. I'd still go out like you all do as a kid, and the thing is, when I was younger, I probably went out sometimes at the wrong times. But if you want it enough, then you will do the right things. You will get off your own back, and you will do your research on how to get up, how to get stronger, how to get fit, how to pass better. You'll ask people. You do all this stuff. I generally get players now. I know some players at the college, also part of the 18s, who off their own back, they drop me a message, they talk to me, they're just trying to get better and be better at what they do. If they don't know how to be better, then they'll ask me, what have I got to do to be better? So if I was to, I don't know, if I say that one bit of advice, if they're hungry to go and do better and play better at football, I'd say just keep asking questions and just make sure you've got the willingness and the drive to be better. That is generally actually the most important thing, the willingness and the drive.
That's cool.
100%.
One question I want to ask, and this is a personal one as well. This is something that I, maybe the viewers and listeners don't want to listen to this, but this is something which I'm quite interested in. And I don't know where it's come from my perspective. I don't know where it's come from, but this technology shithousing is risen from God knows where, like a phoenix from a flame. It's come from God knows where, and it's out there now. And you played the game. You played against, big old school centre forwards who would drop an elbow and, tread on your, toes and stamp down your calves and everything, stick the fingers in your ears and up places which they shouldn't be put in places. What's the difference between how shithousery are players the higher you go up? Or is it a global thing, or is it like a step process in a way? You know what I mean? The higher they go up the ladder, the more people understand that this happens, and people accept it and actually embrace it. If you could say
that. I'd say it dies down now in this day and age at the higher you go. But I'd say that sort of stuff, like you say there, like you sticking your finger places and shit, and the elbows and that is still a thing that happens in non-league. Happened when I was obviously at Forest Green. But as you get higher, that sort of stuff does stop. Purely probably because you just get caught now because everything's getting filmed. If everything didn't get filmed, 100%, that would probably still carry on.
And do you think that it's an interesting one for me, is that we spoke about the academy environments being potentially soft, and obviously that filters down to academies in Div 1 and Div 2 and conference and etc. Players are treated, I'm going to say this without being silly, but players are let off the leash in things they probably could have done or did do 10, 15, 20 years ago. That build character. Do you think this day and age, especially the younger players who are coming through, do you think that type of mentality, housing mentality, and I just term it as a will to want to win. You're finding as many different avenues to win your battle or win the war or win the game, what it's going to be, what you call it. You want to win it by being skillful. You want to win it by being aggressive. You want to win it by being smart, by being fitter, by being sharper. But you want to win it by intimidation as such. You want to, if you haven't got the skill that your opponent has, but I can talk him into believing that he hasn't, then my skill's gonna look a little bit better on that day. And I've won. My skill looks great because I've done it. Do you think there's a lack of that type of mentality? You said about, people will find their ways to want to win, but actually that real mentality of, I'm going to win today. I don't know how yet. I don't know, what I'm going to do, but I will walk that line and win. You know, do you think there's a lack of mentality in the younger players that you see this day?
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Like, I just look, even at like Werner's level, there's a lack of that. And I think even at a pro club, like you look at when we played Brighton the other day, the 23s, it wasn't really. There was no one there with any sort of bite about him. There's a centre half. When I went up front the last 10, 15 minutes, there's the big centre half who, I don't know what I've done something to. I might have elbowed him in the chest, or I don't know what I've done. I've done something. And he had a bit of a bite back, but it wasn't like just a bit of a very tame, call me a prick or a cunt, I don't know, whatever he was. And I look at every other player, and they were just fucking, everything they'd done was just soft and pretty. So it's all soft and pretty, I think, in this day and age, and it's a rarity because I think, especially a lot of these teams, they all want these technically gifted players because it's a selfish game. They all want their own club, so they will try and get these players who are technically sound to filter through to their first team. If you don't make it, then when you go down to the lower leagues, that's when you need your bollocks and your 1v1 battles and your mentality to really kick in, and they ain't got it because their clubs just focus solely on the pretty and the soft. So look good on the ball, make the right passes, look like be able to pass 10 yards, 30 yards, whatever it is. The left side centre half at Brighton, I've only seen him once, and in that game, unbelievable on the ball. Like, I've never seen a centre half so composed at that age. I think he's a first year scholar from what I heard, but the soft as puppy shit, like in battles and everything, and he's a centre half. And again, it's probably mentality the way when I got brought up in the game, or it might just be, I don't know, the Premiership way. But I just look at him, he's a centre half, and he was really pretty to the eye on the ball. But even against any one of our players, and our players are young at the first team, any one of our players, I back them all day, one-on-one, in a mental game with him, in the physicality and everything. And I think, it's just, a bit of a lost art, I think, that side of the game.
Yeah, like I say, I think, we've both seen sort of, the other side of it in a way, that, that post academy world where, things were just real, you got treated like, you didn't get treated like a 16-year-old. You got treated like a 26-year-old. You had responsibilities, you had roles, you had jobs, and if you didn't do them, there'd be consequences. And you were playing with players, in first team games at 14, 15, 16, and tackles went in. And they didn't care if you was 14, 15, 16, 17. You was in their way, you was in their five-a-side game, and they wanted to win because there was a wager on it, and they didn't want to lose the wager. So, you have a toe the line, or you don't be there. And I think, it's those reputations where people walk away and go, I tell you what, we said that 16-year-old kid, I know he is, but I tell you what, he gave as good as he got. I respect that. I like that. I can trust that.
Yeah.
Rather than sort of like, he's a pretty boy, but look, and we all know that, certain mentalities, and I think it's all mentalities. I think it's all environments. It's just, in the higher you go, it's just mastered a little bit. But if and you maybe tell me if I'm wrong, but I'm sure you've been around managers who are of the highest level who have turned around and said, Aaron, there's a centre forward today. He's decent. He scored 25 goals so far. If you don't in the first 5 minutes, then we lose the game. Do what you got to do, and you do what you need to do. The guy goes off. Everyone, they don't like it. You win 1-0 and everything's happy. I think it's those environments. I personally think, it's those real reality, those real, natural environments. I think sometimes, well, not sometimes, a lot of the time, football at certain levels is definitely missing.
Yeah, I think as well, especially, I know it is sometimes within the person and personality, but it's 100% part of the culture of football clubs and part of the culture in which the managers and players create in the dressing room. If you have got that sort of winning mentality, win at all costs, and you can create it, and you can give that person who is soft as puppy shit that extra 20% and make them a little bit tougher, and that can come through an environment and a culture at the football club. I do think that it does come a bit naturally to some people more than others, but you can definitely instill it in people, and like I said, in the dressing room, have that culture.
Yeah, I just think one of the sort of, and I think comes back to the ego thing. I think, if you have that culture, if you have a strong identity, an ethos of wanting to win, you have players that are prepared to fight and battle, and push the barriers, push that line sometimes, and sometimes go over it and take the consequences. But they all drive in the same direction, and they all do what they have to win their personal battles, win the game in an ideology of the club. Sometimes, most of the time, you look at clubs and the first thing you do is go, oh man, old school, animalistic, it's long ball, it's this, it's all negative. But actually, when you're in that environment, and I think Forest Green was very similar, when you're in that environment of winning, it's a great feeling.
That's the feeling, it's the winning feeling. No matter how you're doing it or what you're doing. Like I said, there's no right or wrong way to play football. 100%. You just work with what you got, and if you're the players or you're as a manager, your tactics is all you know is how to make a big diagonal, how to get crosses in the box, then fucking do it. And if you're winning, no one complains. You might have a few fans, a few fickle fans that be like, oh, it's just shit. But even, I'd say 95% of fans is all about winning. You do get the odd occasion of a few fans where it's like, I just want to come out and get entertained and all that stuff. And that's fine. Pay your money, come in if you want to try and be entertained. But majority of fans will obviously be win at all costs and get promoted or win the league.
So before we finish, I just want to ask you a few more questions that hopefully tie off. And the quick fire answer question, just answer them how you see fit. What is your philosophy on football?
This isn't quick fire because this all reverts back to my philosophy is, I think I've been around two types. I think I've been around a tiki-taka, and I think I've been around the direct / sort of crossing routes in the sense in that. So it honestly would depend on what sort of players I inherit. I think for me, I'm more knowledgeable on being a bit more direct and crosses. So, to answer your question, I'd probably go that side. But again, it would come down to what sort of boys or squad I inherit.
Another question is, if you had to give some advice to all the guys that are listening, all the coaches, all the managers, like I say, you played at the highest level, so you have as more than a right to say stuff than I do. But all the managers, coaches, players, academy players with the Worthing College, academy players with Worthing Football Club, etc. What one bit of advice would you give them right now?
I'd say willingness to sort of win or do well for yourself. Because if you're doing well as for yourself, then you like to think your team's doing well. So you have to have the willingness and the drive to want to be better. I've been around. I think the majority of my managers have had that, the willingness and the drive to be better. I've been around players that haven't had that. I think they can just turn up and just do what they want, and they obviously phase out the game. But for me, it's all about having the willingness and the drive to be better. Educate yourself on new ideas, but again, that comes under the bracket of just being better.
What is in store for Aarran Racine now? Well, we're sitting here in this lockdown, all contemplating, what we're going to do when we're outside in the free world again, knowing that this free world is not going to be the same one that we left X amount of weeks ago. So we're all sitting here trying to redevelop and reinvent ourselves. Some are shaving their heads, some are growing big beards. I've got a beard coming on, you've got a beard coming on, I'll probably shave my head next week. We're all trying to do something to reinvent itself. What is in store? When we open the door, Aaron, and we're all out there and we're having that beer together and saying, and saying goodbye to all the people that are unfortunately suffering and are no longer with us, and having that beer and point up to the sky and wishing everybody wealth and health and saying goodbye to the loved ones that that have subsided at the moment. But what's happening now? What are you going to do?
For me now, I don't know. Just obviously see out this lockdown. Again, this is a perfect time for everyone to go and educate themselves. So for me now, I've generally bought a couple of online courses I'm doing. I want to try and learn a language, so I'm going to do that. But all this spare time in the world now, you can go and learn a language, do all this shit on the internet. When we come out the other end of all this stuff, for me, got a couple more years left, I think, playing, 3 years maybe. And then, like I said, I'm going to uni, going to study, hopefully become a teacher, college level, and hopefully be involved in that and still be involved in football, whether it be coaching, managing after that, I don't know. We'll see.
Sure. Aarran, as always, mate, we don't, strange enough, even though we see each other, you know, quite regularly in our working environment, we don't really have much of a sit down and have a chat too much.
No.
Is on my to-do list when we go back, because, you know, I don't know about you, but it's nothing better than chatting football. And just keeping it real and keeping it raw. But, you know, any last comments you want to give the listeners out there? Any words of wisdom you want to leave with?
No, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but, you know, if you want something, it's just all about the willingness and drive. If you don't know, you ask a question. It's simple as that. Simple as that.
Guys, when you listen to this, you know, I know it's a football show in a way. We talk about football because, you know, the guest, you know, today, Aarran is a football player. But, you know, one of the things we need to understand is that, you know, from a football perspective, the words and the language people use, the ideologies they come up with, it's just metaphors for life. You know, Aaron's come down today and said, you know, the one thing that he understands and the one thing that he endorses with people that he's seen in high elite athletes is the willingness for passion, desire, drive, finding avenues and ways to change and develop and keep wanting to do that over and over again through the good times and the bad times. And I think, you know, that's a metaphor for life, whether you're a CEO in business, and I keep saying that, whether you're in education, you're in sport, you're part, you know, you're a husband or a wife and a family, or your best friend with someone, having passion, having desire, having the willingness to want to work hard and listening to people, having a willingness to win as much as you can and learn from your defeats and want to go again. It's just a metaphor for life. So guys, if you take one thing away from Aaron's talk today, is that do everything you do with passion, do everything you do with desire, and do everything you can do to improve yourself irrespective of the situations that you're in. Aarran, thank you so much, my friend, for being on this podcast. It's been a pleasure.
No, thank you. It's been good catching up.
All right, guys, this podcast, Aarran Racine, please listen to it. Unbelievable golden nuggets, not just for football, but for life itself. And I look forward to speaking to you again on the Musings with the Movement Man. As always, stay safe, stay at home, be passionate, have desire, and have lots of fun when you're doing it. Take care. See you soon. Bye-bye.